Hello everyone, J3 here and welcome to the stage of the Quicksand. The people who are playing at this stage are those who are deeply buried in debt and are struggling to pay even just the interest payments on their loans. For you to get a better understanding of this stage, I would just like to explain why it is called the stage of the Quicksand. A quicksand is a dangerous element of nature wherein sand and water are mixed in such a way that it creates a sort of muddy look. Now, when a person or animal steps on a quicksand, they will slowly submerge in it and get stuck. For people who don't know how to get out of a quicksand, they go down even further because of their movement. There are already many people who have died or almost died because of the quicksand, making it a real danger. So here's the process on how people actually get stuck and die from quicksands. First is that people don't know it's a quicksand. To the untrained eye, it just looks like a, regular mud with a little water. Sometimes the quicksand is even hidden by a muddy puddle of water. So the person will end up in a quicksand because he doesn't know it is a quicksand. Then next, when someone finally gets stuck into the quicksand, if the technique for escaping is wrong, he will further get sucked in it, and it will be more difficult to get out. Now, next, you will sink to a point wherein it would be very difficult to move already. But you don't get buried in the ground just like what you see in movies. What happens actually is that you just get stuck and it will be very difficult to get out of it. And what will be very dangerous are the other environmental factors. The heat of the sun, the cold air, parasites, and other animals. Imagine being stuck, in the same place for 8 hours and you can't move. So that's life-threatening. Now next, the only way to be saved from a quicksand when you're already deeply stuck is to get help from other people. However, the people who will help you need to be trained on how to get you out of there. Otherwise, they also run the risk of being caught in it. The whole process of the quicksand is extremely similar to people who get buried in debt. At first, they get into the debt thinking that it's harmless. They look at the installment payments as, manageable. Kaya naman bayaran ng installment, it's not a problem. They don't understand the impact of compounding interest rates. So they continue doing the same thing, borrow money, over and over again, until they finally realize that, they are having a difficult time paying. The next, when they can no longer pay, they try to get out of it by borrowing more money. And if done incorrectly, they can end up in even bigger debt, making their financial situation worse. It finally comes to a point wherein you are really financially stuck. But like the quicksand, you won't die because you're buried in mud, or in this case, buried in debt. Debt is not fatal. What's actually fatal are the other elements. When you're already at this point, it is extremely stressful to hide from creditors. The collection agencies will be hounding, harassing, and threatening you to pay up. So rather than the heat of the sun or the cold air or lack of water, it will be the stress of being buried in debt that will be dangerous to your overall health. Finally, just like in a quicksand, you need to ask help from the proper people in order to get out of it. If you ask help from a person who is also financially unprepared, then both of you run the risk of being buried in debt. You need help from a person who is financially stable. This makes the quicksand the most difficult stage to be in. Fortunately, many of us don't start the game here. Being in this stage, the stage of the quicksand, is just the result of very poor financial management. Now, if you're not in this stage of the quicksand, good for you. But still, it would be beneficial for you to listen up so you know how to stay away from this stage. If you're stuck in this stage, don't lose hope because you're about to learn how to get out of it. The goal in this stage is very clear. Get out of bad debt. More specifically, the goals are to get out of unmanageable debt and to stay out of unreasonable and unwinnable debts. we'll go into more detail on the skills required to do this. But for now, let me describe the 3 kinds of bad debt. The first kind of bad debt is when it is already unmanageable. Unmanageable debt is debt that you have no idea how to repay because the principal amount and the interest payments are already too huge. And this has been caused by incurring too much unreasonable and unwinnable debts. Next form of debt are called unreasonable debts. And these are debts that have high interest rates. And it's caused by not knowing how much is a reasonable interest rate given the economy. So unreasonable debts are incurred when the person has no clue how much they are paying in interest. Now next, unwinnable debts. Unwinnable debts are incurred in the purchase of items which provide you no leverage or no advantage. In other words, the moment you bought the item as a loan, you already lost. This brings us to the necessary skills in order to get out of and stay away from each kind of bad debt. So as an overview here is the table listing down the skills required for the goals in this stage. For getting out of unmanageable debt, the skills you need to have are facing reality, taking responsibility, and asking help from the right people. Then, to stay out of unreasonable debt, you'll need to understand interest rates and compounding. Then, to stay out of unwinnable debts, you'll need to understand the concept of leverage. And in the next videos, we'll tackle each goal and skill one at a time. See you there!